Look, if we finally beat Medicare,
Joe Biden's back at it again, folks. The corruption never ends. So we've seen the steady decline. Actually, it's been rapid. When we were watching the debates in 2020, we were watching him perform going into the election. Once he announced his candidacy and the primaries, we've seen a rapid decline in his cognitive ability. But we were called conspiracy theorists. We were called far right. We were considered to be extremists, someone that did not value democracy, someone who could not be trusted. And by the media's standard, we ought to lie. I mean, everyone could see, world leaders, surely, they were watching the whole time. They knew when he was elected, this is a man compromised by China, compromised by Ukraine, compromised by, effectively, the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical-industrial complex, the medical-industrial complex, and the prison industrial complex. This is a man who signed so many laws, he signed so many things into law that has screwed Americans over for decades. With education, not being able to file bankruptcy and get rid of your student loan debt that you cannot pay back. You were told you needed to go to college so that you could make something of yourself, but you end up being crushed by student loan debt. And then the crime bill that he authored, or well, helped pass, locked so many people up, black people specifically. And yes, I'm a white man. I am entitled to have an opinion, even though I'm a white person. It locked so many black men up way above their population. In percentages we haven't seen since. But nonetheless, we're at a point where our president, the leader of the free world, the most powerful man in the world, so to speak, has brain rot. Effectively, he is begging for a diaper change and some more cinnamon in his applesauce. These things cannot be ignored, and we haven't ignored them for years. Ever since he started and announced his candidacy. We've always known it, but it's really getting bad. The debate was a perfect example, and now we see the left and the media are turning on him. They turned on him after the debate. So when we get to his doctor, it gets so much worse. It gets so much worse. The corruption is in every aspect of Joe Biden's life, personal, professional, and his family. See, where we've been saying this whole time that Joe Biden's senile and being called crazy for it, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, the White House physician, has been carrying water for the Biden administration. Now, as a doctor, having the Hippocratic Oath at your back, you're supposed to do no harm, correct? Well, not in this case, because here we have a pure power play, someone who is effectively a puppet for the machine. It's not a secret. Now, when you want to stay in power, like Joe Biden wants to stay in power, and the people behind him, you lose the presidency and your staff and thousands of people who don't want to lose their job, they lose their jobs. And if Trump gets in, a lot more will lose their jobs outside of Joe Biden's staff, cabinet, civil servants. So today, the House Oversight Committee chairman, James Comr, demanded, and he will go through the document, the filing. The letter that James Comr sent in is scathing, and it alleges, and we'll go through what the allegation is. It alleges that Dr. Kevin O'Connor, with the Biden crime family, was receiving money from no other than James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, with Hunter Biden at his stead, or in his stead would meet, but all of them holding hands together. Now, Joe Biden is not clearly tied to this situation, but when you're playing political games and you're pushing power, well, you want to make a lot of money? My name's Biden. My last name's Biden. There's a lot of clout that comes with that. So when we look at what's happening, when we looked at the Hunter Biden laptop, we looked at the corruption, we looked at the money laundering in Ukraine, the corruption there. Donald Trump got impeached because he was trying to expose it. And then we have millions and millions of dollars being funneled into the Biden bank account, dark money effectively, in deals made with China. corruption knows no end. Joe Biden is a professional. May not be a professional being our president, but he is certainly a professional in the game of corruption. So, while James Biden is selling the Biden name as if, sure, it does carry weight, and people will follow your lead if you say you can bring wealth into their company or an organization. Well, they screwed over a large company, a newer company, which is now in bankruptcy. So what we have here, Comr reveals White House physician was involved in the Biden family business deals, demands he testify. Everyone in his administration is embroiled. How do you have complete compliance? People may benefit from the deals they strike with you, sure. But you have complete compliance when they're compromised along with you. Then they do the bidding, your bidding, like Kevin O'Connor is doing. So House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comr is demanding that the White House physician appear before Congress to answer questions on President Biden's declining mental state, while also revealing that the doctor has been involved in the Biden family's business dealings. Fox News Digital obtained the letter Comr from Kentucky, Republican, sent to Dr. Kevin O'Connor on Sunday. Comr is seeking to question O'Connor, given his connections with the Biden family, on whether he is in a position to provide accurate and independent reviews of the president's fitness to serve. So I apologize, I said today, this is a story that is breaking currently. Word got to the news and it's been going viral, to be honest. So Comr wants to know whether O'Connor's medical assessments of the president have been improperly influenced by his work with the Biden family with the company Americore. Now, Americore we'll diverge from here for a second. Americore, if you're like me, I don't trust the medical establishment. It does, however, seem to be the case where Americore does, to a degree, there's dollars behind it, but to a degree does care about its patients. It cares about veterans, most importantly. So the Americore Health strategy is to focus on solving some of the biggest healthcare issues facing the nation, utilizing the unique characteristics of each of our hospitals. This is a southern, it's up here. Americore Health is a new healthcare company focused on saving and revitalizing rural communities through the acquisition and management of rural hospitals across the United States. Now, small backstory, where I live in Tennessee, which, funny enough, James Biden was in court in Tennessee for this exact type of business dealing. But when you have companies like this who go in and acquire hospitals, if you know anything about economics, monopolies are horrible, especially for the consumer, especially when it comes to healthcare, when you have no choice but to go to the hospital and they have a monopoly on the market, charge what they want, and typically quality of care goes down, quality of work-life balance for the employees, especially nurses, goes down. So I'm apprehensive, especially if the Biden name is tied to this. I'm apprehensive to the true benevolence of this company. Nonetheless, they focus on drug overdoses, veterans care, veterans, and I appreciate this. Veterans hospitals are struggling, and care to our nation's veterans is suffering. Americore Health, through its various strategic partners, focuses on providing veterans specific care in all our hospitals, with such services to include detox, behavioral health, PTSD, ventilation therapy, and long-term care. So, seems to be an honest enough mission statement, but where we start to go a little sideways is here, further on in this Fox News article. After a concerning debate performance by President Biden against former President Donald Trump on June 27th, journalists have rushed to report on what Americans have seen plainly for years. The president appears unwell, Comr wrote. And that is the understatement of the century. I don't care about his dementia, quite frankly. He shouldn't be our president for 100 other reasons. Dementia might even be last. And yes, it does matter. Comr said that because Americans have been questioning Biden's ability to lead the country, his committee has been investigating circumstances surrounding O'Connor's February assessment of the president. February. And the game of politics, you deflect. You answer a question without answering it because you don't want to catch yourself in a lie. So this is what O'Connor's done. He noted that Comr noted that O'Connor determined in February that the president is a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. He did, though, point out reports that O'Connor did not recommend that Biden take a cognitive test. After all I've said in this video thus far, you can probably assume the reason why. The Oversight Committee is concerned your medical assessments have been influenced by your private business endeavors with the Biden family. So, it continues. The corruption, that is. Comr said the committee has obtained evidence that shows he was involved with Americore Health, LLC, along with the president's brother, James Biden. Americore, a company which operates rural hospitals, has been investigated by the committee as part of its impeachment inquiry against the president, specifically related to James Biden's work, which brought him more than $600,000. Guess what from? Influence peddling. This is a repetitive theme with the Biden family. The committee says that James Biden, while serving as a principal at Americore, received payments for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The committee found that James Biden received a $200,000 wire in 2018 from the company that he then used to write a $200,000 check to President Biden, which he labeled as a loan repayment. Here's where this gets even more ironic. And we'll look at this Politico article from 2020 to further prove our point that he is the most corrupt president, publicly known corrupt president in our nation's history. And they've mostly all been corrupt. Americore is in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The loan, now, when we look at the other article, they gave James Biden a loan with undisclosed terms because James Biden, peddling influence, says that there's some Middle Eastern money coming their way if they play ball, which never showed up. You'll see in a second. But I thought Joe Biden wasn't involved in this. So the loan they gave James Biden to never be repaid then gets routed to President Biden. I don't think it takes I don't think it takes a genius to start connecting the dots here. It's all laid out pretty clearly. James Biden, according to testimony from other Americore employees, did not provide any services to the company, but instead promised that his Biden name can bring funding to the struggling hospital operator from the Middle East. Now, I read that the first time and I thought, the operator, Americore's from the Middle East? No. Money from the Middle East. And this just continues to get worse as we go on. And here's James Comr's filing, or his letter. $200,000 paid to the order of Joseph R. Biden, March 1st, 2018. This is leading just before. This is during Ukraine and Burisma. This is during China. This is during Hunter's crack binges. And right before he announced that he was going to run for president. It's insane. It truly is. We'll read through here. I'm trying to be brief with this part of the story. See if we can get this to load up. After a concerning debate performance by President Biden against former President Donald Trump on June 27th, journalists have rushed to report on what Americans have seen plainly for years. The president appears unwell. Americans question President Biden's ability to lead the country, and the Committee on Oversight and Accountability is investigating circumstances surrounding your assessment in February of this year that President Biden is a healthy, active, robust 81-year-old male who remains fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. And he's never recommended that he take a cognitive test. Donald Trump, he took cognitive test after cognitive test openly, happily, because, well, he's not demented. There's nothing to hide. Recent evidence obtained by the committee shows that your and James Biden's involvement with Americore Health, LLC, Americore, James Biden, the president's brother, used funds from Americore to pay Joe Biden $200,000 as the company was facing financial distress. Americore is a company that operated rural hospitals, yada, 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 is currently involved in bankruptcy proceedings. As part of the committee's impeachment inquiry into the Biden family's influence peddling schemes, the committee interviewed Americore's Chapter 11 bankruptcy trustee, Carol Fox, in December 2023. While serving as a principal at Americore, James Biden received payments $400,000 and $200,000 respectively, characterized as loans from the company that were wired directly to his bank account. So, from representations that his last name would procure funds for Americore, said that his name could also open doors and that he could obtain a large investment from the Middle East based on his political connections. What are we doing, folks? It continues to digress and get worse and worse, and nobody is saying anything. Like dementia, sure. What matters more to you? That he's a bumbling idiot, or that he was a bumbling idiot all along that knew how to sell his country out and manipulate and control people while enriching himself? It makes no sense. I mean, truly, I don't know how the media never runs with this stuff. Fox News, sure, but it's just like the people who watch Fox News know this stuff. It's just new information that basically just affirms what their suspicions are. I met with, for example, my brother wasn't in office. See, James Biden doesn't speak very well, to be honest. My brother wasn't in office at the time. He was a private citizen, and I hadn't got through his, as vice president, his personal physician was Kevin O'Connor. James Biden testified, and Kevin O'Connor, there was a very, and still there, is an outcry for a solution for post-traumatic stress disorder. And he met with, O'Connor introduced him to a team at the Department of Veteran Affairs that specialized in alcoholism and PTSD. Here we go, Hunter Biden. Comr in the letter also notes that O'Connor, along with Hunter Biden, joined a meeting with Jim Biden and the president of a hospital being acquired by Americore. So Hunter Biden, again, Joe, James, Jim, and Hunter have been working in tandem for many years. And White House maintains that Biden has not been examined by a doctor since February. And during a call with Democratic governors last week, the president himself told governors he was checked out by a doctor and that everything was fine. What doctor checked him out? His business partner or a subsidiary of his corrupt business dealings? So you tell me if this is a man who looks well.
Anyway, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. I was just thinking, anyway, I just, look, I mean, Putin's kleptocracy, yeah.
Yeah.
It was in January, after being elected, the late January, early February. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers.
For two reasons. One, it's an impact the decades been making, because inaction was, there was.
Yeah. Do we need to see any more? He is fried. I just had a Biden moment. I'm thinking about our president having severe brain melt, and generational wealth has come to this family because they've done nothing but be corrupt, vile, depraved, psychopathic, power-hungry demons. And Karine Jean-Pierre is just as embarrassing. There's not one competent person in that administration. There's really not. And if you, I mean, look at Mayorkas. For crying out loud, look at our border. So the statements made by the White House press secretary and President Biden appear inconsistent, and the committee seeks to understand the extent of your role at the White House at this time, Comr wrote. Given your connection with the Biden family, the committee also seeks to understand if you are in a position to provide accurate and independent reviews of the president's fitness to serve. Comr requested that O'Connor make himself available for a transcribed interview with counsel for the House Oversight Committee by July 14th. He's also demanding all documents and communication that O'Connor has regarding Americore and James Biden. Where it gets really dark is when we observe James Biden's healthcare ventures face a growing legal morass. It gets darker when you look at the true nature of what these allegations are from Comr. Yes, we were here talking about O'Connor, but O'Connor is just a beneficiary of the business dealings that these people, these people have commandeered so many companies, countries even, through their last name. It's the House of Cards, literally. Now, if you remember, during the 2020 election, Americore was raided. You might not remember this. A mysterious FBI raid. New allegations from former executives. Questions are swirling about the business dealings of Joe Biden's brother. The FBI raided a healthcare business linked to Joe Biden's brother in late January, seizing boxes of documents. We won't spend too much time on this, but it's important to really understand what James Comr is trying to reveal here. The raid of an Americore Health hospital represented a deepening of the legal morass surrounding James Biden's recent venture into healthcare investing at a time when questions about the business dealings of Joe Biden's relatives and their alleged connection to the former vice president's public service continue to dog his presidential campaign. This is important to read because we have to see that Joe Biden says that he's not involved in all of these, but he's integrally involved because he is the one who's getting these deals pushed through. And he surely knows, he's making money off of it. So this is our president. Could be two-term president. Probably not. But in the weeks since the raid, two small medical firms that did business with James Biden have claimed in civil court proceedings to have obtained evidence that he may have fraudulently transferred funds from Americore outside the ordinary course of business. And a former Americore executive has told Politico that James Biden had more than $500,000 transferred to him from the firm as a personal loan that has not yet been repaid. And he didn't perform any services to them. He just sold the name and said goodbye. And this was in anticipation of Joe Biden getting elected. Joe Biden probably forgot the promises he made to Americore and what James asked him to do. But the purpose of the raid on January 30th of an Elwood City, Pennsylvania hospital remains unclear, and there is no indication that it was related to the action of Biden's younger brother, who has not been accused of criminal wrongdoing. Its owner, Americore, has faced legal problems and allegations of mismanagement that are unrelated to James Biden. Recent ongoing legal proceedings, along with new accounts provided to Politico by former executives of Americore and others, point to potential pitfalls for the former vice president, painting the fullest picture today to James Biden's healthcare dealings and the way in which they allegedly relate to his older brother. In 2017 and 18, James Biden was embarking on a foray into healthcare investing, telling potential partners, including at Americore, that his last name could open doors and that Joe Biden was excited about the public policy implications of their business models, according to court filings and interviews with James' former business contacts. Personal income by selling out the office of the presidency. Tom Pritchard, former Americore executive familiar with the business's finances, told Politico that James Biden's arrival exacerbated Americore's financial problems, holding out the promise of a large investment from the Middle East based on his political connections. James Biden introduced Americore's founder to his older brother and helped land a bridge loan to Americore from a hedge fund, Pritchard said. But then Pritchard said, James Biden received a six-figure personal loan out of Americore's coffers while encouraging the firm to take on greater financial liabilities. The cash infusion from the Middle East never arrived. James Biden has not paid back the loan, the terms of which are unknown. It's all smoke and mirrors, he said. It was, how do you give a loan to someone who's certainly peddling influence, and you should be able to determine that yourself. If you're at the top of a company, you shouldn't be a stupid person. You should have terms to the loan, especially if your company is already financially insolvent or close to it. So based on James Biden's recommendations, it found itself increasingly hamstrung by high-interest loans and unable to pay employees and vendors, a situation that disrupted the operations of the rural hospitals it owns. Now, so there was a Florida case and there was a Tennessee case. Biden has defended his son Hunter and said that his relative's business dealings have had no connection to his official duties. But the recent developments related to James Biden's healthcare ventures demonstrate that as long as Biden remains in the campaign, the issue of his relative's financial dealings is likely to remain as well. So in Tennessee, another healthcare firm sued Platinum Global Partners, a Florida corporation that lists James and his wife Sarah as managers in Palm Beach County in June. The firm, which makes an oral rinse with applications for cancer patients, alleged that Platinum reneged on an agreement to invest in it and requested that Platinum turn over documents related to the Biden Cancer Initiative, a nonprofit. Oh, you hear nonprofit and you know something's fishy. Founded by Joe Biden to fund medical research, an executive involved in litigation against James Biden previously told Politico that on a call, James said he could get the Biden Cancer Initiative to promote the oral rinse. Tennessee case is still ongoing. Palm Beach County case was dismissed without prejudice. But in interviews, former executives of Americore offered additional similar accounts of James Biden, invoking his brother's influence and the promise of investment funds from the Middle East that never materialized in order to push their firm to grow quickly, taking on new financial liabilities. And Americore is now on the sides of the Justice Department. This is in 2020. In Tennessee, the plaintiff described him as a principal of Americore and entered a business card identifying him as such into evidence. James Biden has disputed that he is a principal of the firm in court proceedings, though he has not detailed the precise nature of his ties to Americore, which owns hospitals in Pennsylvania, Arkansas, and Missouri. So, we'll see. We'll see when Joe Biden has done this for his entire political career. We've learned through a number of sources how corrupt he is. When will the media pay attention to it? It's hard to say. What they are paying attention to, which is, in my opinion, the least important part of all of this, is the dementia, because he can't even formulate a sentence. You know, at the beginning of the video, you saw he beat Medicare, and Trump said, yeah, you did beat Medicare. You beat it to death. And when you look at the liberal platform, Democratic platform, they've always ran on Medicare, Medicare for all, United or universal health care. But then you hear Joe Biden say he beat Medicare, and how does that play out to Democrats? Yes, Democrats do care about his cognitive ability more than they care about the corruption somehow, because the media's hamstrung them, like the Bidens did with Americore, into thinking that Donald Trump is a monster and nothing less than a German leader during World War II. For the sake of not getting censored off YouTube, we won't refer to him by name. They go back and forth. They've been removing my videos frequently lately. It's election season, folks. So you guys put in the comments what you think. I don't find myself surprised at all. I covered in a video a month ago when new revelations were made about Hunter Biden's gun that Ashley Biden stowed outside of a restaurant across from a school, that they used a Sandy Hook memorial service to do this type of business dealing, to meet with Chinese executives who were partner to the CCP, as corporations have to be in China. So when we see this corruption, what do? Share the video, like if you're on YouTube, subscribe, repost it, share it as far as you can, because this corruption will continue to get exposed. They will continue to throw Joe Biden under the bus, and James Comr is doing what he's got to do here. This information needs to get out. I think probably the best case scenario is if Joe Biden stays in until the election happens, because he's the easiest opponent to beat. But their hand has been played. People see that they're pushing this demented guy out on the stage to do interviews. He can't stay out past 4 o'clock. So they see what's happening. And if they replace him, it's been 4 years. And Karine Jean-Pierre would say he's had 3.5 years of incredible work for the American people. We can make another video on that and how that is an absolute lie. There is nothing good that has come from the Biden administration, except for junk fees on airline tickets, overdraft fees, like issues that, oh, okay, you throw us a crumb while we're starving and families are filing bankruptcy because they can't afford to pay for groceries. And a $100 basket of goods 4 years ago was $100, and now it's $130. The consumer price index is up over 20% year over year. So I appreciate you guys for joining me on this. It's been a longer video than I expected because, well, the facts need to get out there. So appreciate you for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, follow if you're on X, and subscribe, follow on Rumble and YouTube. Thanks, guys.